Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Trinity College. My name is Jerry White, and I'm a member of staff in the law school here in Trinity. And for the next 30 minutes or so, I want to speak to you about law as a career in general, and more specifically about the study of law at Trinity College. And I suppose I thought I'd start simply by posing the question, well, why would people want to study law? We're not exactly the most popular people in society, but that's historically true. If you go back to Shakespeare, what did he say about lawyers? He said, the first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. So not a particularly popular group. But notwithstanding that, people still are very interested in the study of law. And it seems to me that there are probably two motivations for studying law, and they're not necessarily exclusive. First of all, there's the perception that the study of law will bring you into a lucrative career. Recent history in this jurisdiction with tribunals of inquiries and lawyers' fees or whatever would certainly have added fuel to that particular perception. And it is certainly true that at the upper end of the profession, earnings are quite high. I suppose I'd have to say that the legal profession, like all aspects of Irish society, have been adversely affected by the recession. And times are a little bit more difficult now than they were a few years ago. But certainly the promise of having a good career is one reason why people would want to consider doing law. But there's also a second reason, and as I say, these are not mutually exclusive. People are also attracted to the study of law because of a sense of idealism, a sense that as a lawyer you can help to promote social justice. And that's certainly an important consideration in this regard. And those of you who have that sort of altruistic or idealistic bent may find a legal career attractive. So let me turn to consider more specifically the study of law in Trinity. And first of all, let me just put up on the overhead the entrance requirements that we have. We currently have 5 undergraduate law programs. Okay, so we have law and politics, where the entrance requirements last year were 575 points. We have 20 places on that particular, 20 places each year on that particular program. Then we have law and French, points requirements 565 points. In addition, you need to have C1 in honours French in the Leaving Cert, or grade C in the advanced GCE A levels. That's a specific course requirement for law and French. There are 15 places in the law and French program. Law and business, again 565 points coming in last year. You need to have a C3 in ordinary Leaving Cert Maths, or a D3 in honours Leaving Cert Maths, or a grade B in GCSE mathematics. That's again a specific course requirement there. Law and German, the entrance requirement's 525 points. Again, a C1 in honours German in the Leaving Cert, or a grade C in the advanced GCE A levels in German. And finally then, there is what we might call pure law, where the entrance requirements are 525 points. I should have said law and business. There are 25 places for law and business, 15 places for law and German, and then there are 90 places in the pure law program. Okay? So if you want to study law, there are obviously options in terms of the various different law schools that you could go to in this jurisdiction. Why would you pick Trinity Law School? And I suppose the first thing I'd say is just to note the international reputation of Trinity College in general and the law school in particular. Trinity Law School is the only Irish law school in the top 100 QS World University rankings of law schools. In terms of staff, we have many of our staff are experts in their particular fields and will have written the leading texts in such areas as administrative law, procedural law, company law, constitutional law, contract law, environmental law, equity, international law, private international law, public interest law, torts and sports law. In all those areas, the leading texts have been written by members of Trinity Law School. The students that we attract to the law school are also very highly qualified, very bright, hard-working students, and so the interaction that students have with each other certainly enhances the learning experience that they will get here in Trinity. There's also a strong sense of community within the law school. We're not quite as big as some of the other law schools in Ireland, but we pride ourselves in the fact that there's a strong sense of community, a good bond between staff and students. One of the distinctive features of Trinity College, as opposed to the other universities, is what we call the tutorial system. This is a system whereby students are assigned to individual members of staff who essentially function as their academic guardian angels for the 4 years that they're here in college. And we have that system in the law school. It's a very strong, good support system for students while they're in college. Finally, then, there's the extracurricular activities that you'll find in Trinity. There are something like 150 clubs and societies that students can join, a number of which focus specifically on law students. There's a debating society, the Law Society. There are also organisations such as the Free Legal Advice Centres, which are focusing on social justice issues, and again, they're predominantly directed at law students. And these sort of extracurricular activities are very important because, for a number of reasons, it's important to balance work and play, but you also actually learn indirectly through extracurricular activities. You develop yourself in a way that you don't learn through formal classes. And as I say, Trinity offers a very wide range of extracurricular activities for students to participate in. Let me tell you a little bit more about the actual study of law in Trinity. And first of all, the freshman years. Well, what does the word freshman mean? That's a reference to the first and second years in the undergraduate programme. I'll go into a little bit more detail presently about the 5 different degrees, but just let me say at this point that the broad structure of studying law in Trinity is that in the first and second years, there are certain core subjects that students have to study. So, in other words, the law school will tell you what you have to study in first year and what you have to study in second year. When you get on to the sophistry years, that's your third and fourth years, the emphasis switches. Now you're presented with a fairly extensive range of optional subjects. I think we have something like 33 different optional subjects. And the student is invited to pick from that menu of optional subjects. Okay? And what this means is that you can shift the emphasis of your studies towards subjects that you find particularly interesting or that you think particularly important. So if you're really interested in sort of commercial orientated subjects, you can pick subjects on that basis. If your interests lie in the area of, say, human rights, equally you can pick subjects with that sort of flavour, or you can mix and match. The choice is yours. There are requirements that the professional bodies have of which you need to take account, and that might restrict your choice if you're considering qualifying as a solicitor or as a barrister, but you're still left with considerable options, considerable range of choice to shape the type of degree that you want to come out with after 4 years here. In addition to those sort of optional subjects, in fourth year you have the option, if you wish, of doing a research dissertation instead of one of the subjects that you would otherwise be required to take. And this is an opportunity for students to further develop their research skills, and it can be a bridge into postgraduate work if you want to do postgraduate studies in law after graduation. It gives you an opportunity to further develop those skills in anticipation of going on to further studies. There's also the broad curriculum. This is a college-wide project or program rather, whereby students can pick a subject from an entirely different discipline. in lieu of or in place of one of the subjects that they would otherwise be required to take. So you could, for example, depending on what's on offer in the particular year, you could take a module, say, in film studies, or say a module in psychology, just to get sort of outside the law thing completely, and it just broadens a little bit your perspective on life. This is, as I say, something offered in college. Now, let me talk a little bit more about, there's also the question of studying abroad. This is an option in third year. Students have the option, if they wish, of studying abroad. We have links with a range of universities in continental Europe, and we also have links with a number of universities in North America. And the idea is that students would, instead of spending their third year here in Trinity, that they would go abroad for the year, study law in the host university, and then the results that they get in that year are factored back into their degree results here in Trinity. For students who are interested in doing either of the law and French or law and German programs, the studying abroad is compulsory in third year. That's one important difference between the law and language programs and the other three programs. For law and language students, they must study abroad in either a French-speaking or German-speaking university in third year. Okay. Let me say a little bit more about the individual degree programs, the 5 degree programs that we have. And I'll start with the pure law program, or we sometimes refer to it as the single honours law program. Just to give you a little bit of an explanation of the structure of this program. If you take the first and second years of the law program, in first year and also in second year, students will be required to study 6 different subjects in each year. Now, Trinity is now semesterized, so you would take, say if you came in first year, you would come in at the end of September, and the first semester runs up to about a week before Christmas, and during that period in first year, you would study 3 different subjects. Okay? Then, after Christmas, when you're back in January, you'd pick up another 3 different subjects. Each module is generally taught on the basis of 3 lectures a week and then a seminar every fortnight. Now, those of you who are good at maths will realise that if you're taking 3 modules at 3 hours a week, that's 9 lectures a week. And then if you add in seminars, you could be talking about a seminar a week or possibly 2 seminars a week, depending on the timetable. So we're looking at about 10 or 11 hours, contact hours per week for students doing single honours law. And I think there's an important point to be made here. That's obviously very different to the educational experience you're having at present, where you're in school, most of you, from 9 to 4 or whatever, with possibly supervised study after that. So one of the challenges you'll face studying law, one of the transitions you'll have to meet studying law, is the fact that a lot of responsibility will fall on your shoulders to organise your study time. You'll have those 10 or 11 contact hours a week, but then after that it's up to you to go into the library, to read up on the cases, to read the articles, to read the textbooks that you need to reinforce what you've been told in lectures. The lectures are given to the full class. With single honours law, as I said already, there would be 90 students, and then students from the other 4 streams will also sit in on core subjects, so you could be talking about a class of about 150 or 160. The seminars are small group teaching, and whereas in the lectures you come along and somebody like myself drones on and on for about 50 minutes and people try to take notes, in the seminars it's more interactive. You come in having read material and it's question and answer, small group teaching of about maybe 10 to 15 students per class. Okay. So that's the first and second years in the single honours law program. Then when you get into third and fourth year, again you've got to pick 6 subjects each year, but you've got the choice from that range of 33 different modules to which I've referred earlier. You pick 6, 3 in the first semester of third year, 3 in the second semester of third year, and then again in fourth year the same sort of regime. So that's the single honours law programme. With regard to political science, this is an interdisciplinary degree, so obviously you're not going to be studying as much law as you would do on the single honours law programme. So for the first and second years, you will be required to study 3 law subjects in first year and 3 law subjects in second year, and we determine the subjects that you have to study. You also have to take 3 subjects from the political science side of the degree in first year, and again 3 subjects from the political science side in second year. And when you get into the third and fourth years, again it's a 50-50 split, but here you've got choices. You've got to take half of your subjects from a law menu and the other half from a political science menu, though you get to pick which subjects you want to specialise in. EU law, is mandatory. You have to pick EU law. That's the one choice that you don't have in third or fourth years. You must do EU law. With regard to law and business, the first and second year structure is the same as the one that I've just described for political science. When you get into third and fourth year in business, law and business, there is a departure, as it were, from the political science model. With the law and business programme, you must take at least 1/3 of your subjects from the law module, the law menu, and 2/3 from business, or vice versa. In other words, you could, in third or fourth year, shift the emphasis of your degree towards law and away from business, or towards business and away from law, or you could do a 50-50 split, depending on your own personal preferences. Again, you must study EU law in third year. Penultimately, with regard to law and French, in first year and in second year, you study 4 law modules and 3 French modules. I should say about the language modules, this is not simply, grammar and vocabulary, whatever. You're actually studying French law and about French society and French civilization through French, okay? And similarly with German. In third year, you go abroad to, one of the partner universities that we have, and when you come back in fourth year, you must take the equivalent of 4 law subjects, together with language and oral work and project and report writing in French. The law and German programme is the same, has the same structure as the programme that I've just described with regard to law and French. Penultimately, maybe not even penultimately, maybe even finally, there's the question of law after graduation. And I suppose that I'd make 2 points here. The first is to emphasize the flexibility of the law degree. When I started my presentation, I talked about people thinking about why they would pursue a law career and why they would study law in Trinity. But let me sort of correct any impression I might have given at that point by saying that if you study law in Trinity or anywhere else for that matter, you don't necessarily have to end up as a solicitor or as a barrister. A law degree is a fairly flexible degree. I remember being told myself when I was a law student that you could do anything with a law degree that you can do with an arts degree except teach. And that's certainly the case that out of our graduating class every year, not every graduate will pursue a career as a solicitor or a barrister. People end up in finance, they end up in the public service, they end up in social services. Some have even more exotic careers. They go off and become novelists and the like, or artists. But what I'm saying is, it's a flexible degree, and if you decide to study law at this stage, you're not closing down options later on when it comes to pursuing a career outside of law. The second thing I would just say is that a university law degree in Ireland does not entitle you to practice immediately as a solicitor or as a barrister. And after your time in college, you will have to undergo further professional training if you want to become a solicitor or if you want to become a barrister. And you're looking at, I think, from, say, in relation to solicitors, at least another 3 years after graduating in order to complete the professional training there. With regard to the bar, it's another year or 2 years, depending on whether you do it on a full-time or a part-time basis. So there is further study required after university before you can actually practice as a lawyer. And I suppose just one point to draw to your attention, just to note that currently the Oireachtas, the Parliament, is considering legislation called the Legal Services Regulation Bill. And that may have a significant impact on professional training by the time, assuming the legislation goes through, by the time our undergraduates graduate, the professional training regime may be different to what it is currently. At present, if you want to be a solicitor, you have to go to the Law Society where you take their course, and with regard to being a barrister, you have to study at the King's Inns. One of the proposals in this new legislation is that monopoly might be broken up, and so there may be a range of institutions providing professional training in a few years' time. This is something that we just, just to keep an eye out for that, just to see if the legislation goes through on that basis. So that, I suppose, is the end of my presentation, but I'm happy to take questions that anybody would have, and also to draw your attention to the fact that in the examination hall in Front Square, the law school has a stand where there are members of staff and current law students who are available throughout the day to answer any questions anybody might have about law. So happy to take any questions anybody might have. Very quiet. Yes. Yes, I mean, we have we have links. Most of the universities now, with regard to the Law and French program, I think most of the universities are in France, but the requirement is that you must study in a French-speaking university. So if there was some particular reason why you might want to study, say, in Belgium, you could talk to the director of the program, and if he or she was satisfied with the university in question, I think we could accept that sort of an arrangement. It doesn't necessarily have to be in France, but it does have to be French speaking. Okay. Yes. Now, with regard to you will do in the first and second years, you will take 6 core legal subjects, and we've designed the programs. This is true of all of the 5 programs, but particularly the interdisciplinary ones. We've designed those so that you cover the core legal subjects that the professional bodies will require you to have in your degree. So, for example, you'll cover things like constitutional law, criminal law, contract, land law, torts, and legal systems and methods. They're the sort of core legal subjects. You will cover those. Obviously, if you're doing an interdisciplinary course, your choice of law subjects after that will be somewhat more restricted. You'll also do, as I mentioned earlier, European Union law, but after that your choice of subjects will be a little bit more restricted than if you were simply doing a pure law program. But the core legal content in all of the programs satisfies the requirements of the professional bodies. The degrees are recognised by the Law Society and by the King's Inns for that purpose. Okay? Yes? Yeah, to be honest, it is a bit competitive. Now not every student wants to go, but maybe something approaching a third of the class might be abroad in third year. Now that would include obviously students in the law and language programs who have to go. But the students in the other 3 programs, there is a minority there who will study abroad. And yes, there's no guarantee. You do have to apply. The arrangements that we have with our partner universities restrict us in the number of places that we have on offer. So it is competitive in that sense. Yeah. Yes.
What would the advantages or disadvantages be of studying in Trinity and then doing the bar exam in Dublin rather than just studying in, say, Columbia?
Sorry, are you saying, so you've got the option, say, of doing law in another jurisdiction as opposed to doing it here? Is that the question?
Yeah. What
Yeah.
would the advantages be, say, practicing over there?
Well, it's not an either-or situation, and I'm glad you asked the question because it does remind me to make this further point, that law graduates every year from Trinity, some of them do end up training in the United Kingdom and a smaller number training in the United States. So it's not the case that with a Trinity law degree you're necessarily tied to working as a lawyer in this jurisdiction. Again, we have structured, we've organised the modules in third and fourth year so that you can pick up, for example, English land law, which enables you to transition easily enough into the English professional training system. So that is an option. If you wanted to emigrate after college, you're not prevented from doing that by virtue of the fact that you just have an Irish law degree. Graduates every year, some of them do end up working in the city in London, or a smaller number working in North America. Yes?
This degree that's awarded, this degree awards an LLB. What's the difference between a Bachelor of Civil Law and an LLB?
Yeah. It's I would say purely a matter of terminology. I'm a graduate from UCD with a BCL, and I would regard that as the equivalent of the LLB. At one stage, I think UCD, certainly in my time, had a 3-year undergraduate program, whereas Trinity always had a 4-year undergraduate program. But I hope I'm correct in saying this, I think UCD have now moved to a 4-year program as well. So, in educational terms, the degrees are equivalent. Yeah, they're both undergraduate programs. Yes?
Sorry, how are the subjects assessed?
The main form of assessment is by way of examination. Now there can be, it depends on the individual examiner. So for example, subjects that I teach, I will allocate some marks towards coursework during the year, essays. Maybe 20% of the marks would go towards an essay. But that's my choice, in the sense that, that's the proposal I put to the law school. The law school agrees with that. Other colleagues will insist 100% on the exam. And then for some modules, some of the smaller modules in the third and fourth years, some colleagues are happy just to assess it purely on the basis of the essay. So it varies. But exams will be the major form of assessment. I think we have to draw the session to a close. As I say, if you have any further questions, the examination hall in Front Square is where you'll find the law school stand. Thank you very much.